o'clock. Here is the midday news. First, the top stories. Ogun teachers besiege TRCN office to beat May 31 registration deadline. Acting president calls for sacrifice to make Nigeria great. Obasanjo warns against boiling angers and frustrations of the Nigerian youths. 7 immigration officers summoned over misconduct at Lagos airport. On the foreign scene, protesters block streets in Morocco demanding jobs for youths, and German leader says EU must no longer rely on US and UK as allies for survival. Good afternoon, I am Chienye Egwuonwu, bringing you the details of the news shortly. On the news in detail, primary and secondary school teachers in Ogun State have besieged State's Office of the Teachers Registration Council (TRCN) in Abeokuta to meet up with the May 31 deadline for the compulsory registration as professional teachers. The last-minute rush is to benefit from the decision of TRCN to exempt teachers who registered on or before May 31 from writing a professional qualifying examination. Teachers who register after May 31, according to the Council, will write the first professional qualifying examination in October. Also, the Council had issued a deadline that any teacher who failed to register before January 1, 2018 will not be allowed to teach and also risk prosecution. The Ogun State chapter of Nigeria Union of Teachers (NUT) has supported the move, directing its members, especially the primary school teachers, to comply before the May 31 deadline. The state chapter of the Academic Staff Union of Secondary School (ASUS) is not asking members to boycott the exercise, but has asked the council to address some of the pending issues over the exercise. Some of the issues, according to ASUS, are refund of 1,500 naira registration fee paid in 2001 when the exercise was first introduced, the issuance of certificates to those registered during the first phase of the exercise in 2001 and 2003, and that the registration should be made voluntary and not mandatory. The Muslim community of the Moshood Abiola Polytechnic, Mapoli Abeokuta, will hold its annual Ramadan program on Wednesday, May 31. The event, scheduled to hold at the OGD Auditorium of the Polytechnic by 10 a.m., will feature a lecture titled The People of Yesterday, Today and Tomorrow, to be delivered by an Islamic cleric, Sheikh Muhyiddin Bello. Special guests of honor at the program are Governor Ibikunle Amosu, the Speaker of the Ogun State House of Assembly, Suraj Adekunle, Works and Infrastructure Commissioner Hakim Lekan Adebite, Youth and Sports Commissioner Moruf Afolabi Afwakwe, Alhaji Jimoh Popola, and Alhaji Afis Salisu of Keblat Hotels. Father of the Day, according to the chairman of the planning committee, Alhaji Sulaiman Adebiyi, is the chairman of Ogun State Universal Basic Education Board, Alhaji Abdul Jalil Okewale, and Princess Khadijat Kashmadam as the mother of the day. The chief host is the Polytechnic Rector, Professor Oludele Itiola, while the chairman of the institution's Muslim community, Alhaji Shuaib Arowolo, is the host. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo says Nigeria now needs people who can make the sacrifices needed to make Nigeria great again. Osinbajo, who made the call in Abuja at the interdenominational church service to mark the Democracy Day, explains that the required sacrifice could be made by highly placed people or the ordinary Nigerians. The sacrifice, according to him, could be made by professionals, including doctors, nurses, teachers, and graduates in their line of duties. For instance, the acting president says sacrifice is required in the ongoing anti-corruption campaign because corruption fights back. In his sermon, the presiding apostle of the Word Communication, Apostle Sunday Popola, calls for the patience of Nigerians on the Buhari administration, while warning against a military coup, saying it will not work. The service was attended by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, the acting president's wife, Jalapo Osinbajo, Head of Service of the Federation, Mrs. Winifred Oyoita, and the President of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend Samson Ayorinde. Deputy Governor Philip Shuaib of Edo State has cautioned the organized labor against the proposed upward review of the national minimum wage. The Deputy Governor, in an interview, says that agitation for wage increase will not solve the economic challenges facing Nigerian workers. Shuaib explains that the holistic restructuring of the economy, including fixing of utility system, will address the welfare of workers. Such restructuring of the economy, the Deputy Governor says, will make the salaries being paid to workers more meaningful and be sufficient for them. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo says there is an urgent need to address the growing angers and frustrations of the Nigerian youths. Obasanjo warns that the boiling angers and frustrations, if not contained, could lead to an explosion. He says that his great fears all over Africa and Nigeria has always been the anger and frustrations of the youth, which could explode beyond control. The former president, who states this in Abeokuta at the Youth Governance Dialogue, which was organized by the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library, says MASOB, Boko Haram, Niger Delta militancy, and Oodua People's Congress are all expressions of the angers and frustrations of Nigerian youths. Obasanjo recalls that his generation had limitless opportunities but no facilities, while the present generation of youths have facilities but have little or no opportunities. Despite the challenges, Obasanjo urges youths not to give up hope but work hard to help themselves. Nigeria Immigration Service has summoned 7 of its officers at Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, Lagos, for unprofessional conduct. Immigration Comptroller General Mohammed Babandede, who made this known in an interview, says the officers were caught during his covert mission to monitor the operation of immigration officials at the airport. The officers, according to him, have been invited to the immigration headquarters in Abuja for questioning and appropriate sanctions to deter others from subjecting air passengers to unnecessary delays. The immigration controller says the covert operations had been extended to other airport formations in the country. He asks immigration officers to sit up or be fired. You're still listening to the Midday News on Rock City 101.9 FM. Up next, we bring you foreign, business, and sports news. Please do stay with us. Now in foreign, hundreds of demonstrators have blocked the main streets in Moroccan capital Rabat in support of the protests in the north of the country against rising youth unemployment in the country. Protesters chanted against the government, calling it corrupt and a failure. Tension has been high since Friday when violence broke out in the town of Al Hoceima as police tried to arrest well-known activist Nasser Zarzafi. Long-standing grievances were exacerbated in October last year when a fish seller in Al Hoceima was killed as he tried to prevent local officials from destroying his stock. Dozens of people have been killed in the Philippine city of Marawi as clashes continue between Islamist militants and the army. Nearly 100 people have been killed, including at least 19 civilians, local media reports. Thousands of residents have fled the city since fighting began 6 days ago, and militants allied to the so-called Islamic State entered the city and took hostages after the army attempted to capture a top militant leader. President Rodrigo Duterte has declared martial law in the area. Europe can no longer completely depend on the US and the UK following the election of President Trump and Brexit. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said she wanted friendly relations with both countries as well as Russia, but Europe now had to fight for its own destiny. Her comments come after Mr. Trump refused to recommit to the 2015 Paris climate deal at the G7 summit. The times in which we could completely depend on others are on the way out, and they have experienced that in the last few days, Mrs. Merkel told the crowd at an election rally in Munich, the southern Germany. The relationship between Berlin and new French President Emmanuel Macron had to be a priority, Mrs. Merkel said, adding that Europeans had to take destiny into their own hands. Next is the business news. Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry (LCCI) has called for a review of operation of a single treasury account (TSA) to allow easier access to the funds. Decentralization of the account, according to the council, will allow government agencies to have easier access to the funds and resolve the current shortage of funds in the federal ministries, departments and agencies. The council's Director General Muda Yusuf, who made the call in an interview, says the TSA has its advantages, but for its over-centralization in Nigeria has created bottlenecks in the releases of funds and is hampering activities of MDAs. Yusuf explains that there is the need for the presidency to evolve a model in the TSA structure that will eliminate bottlenecks, boost operation and productivity of the MDAs. According to him, an efficient public finance structure will stimulate economic growth through government spending and also improve participation and confidence of the private sector. TSA is a public accounting system where all revenues, receipts and incomes of all revenue generating agencies of government are pooled in a single account in the central bank. And more than 7 trillion naira has accrued into the account since its introduction in 2012. Finally, sports news. Nigerian champions Enugu Rangers were thumped 4-0 by one of their southeast rivals in Sunday's NPFL clash at the Umuahia Stadium. League leaders Plateau United continued their impressive run at the top with a 1-0 win over bottom-placed Remo Stars. A brace of goals from Kingsley Eduo and an 89th-minute strike from Sunday Akleche helped Lobby Stars condemn 3SC to yet another 3-0 defeat. FC Ifeanyoba moved into the top three after their 2-0 win over Canopilas. Godwin Abaji scored both goals. NFM-FC dropped out of the top three following their 3-0 defeat at Niger Tornadoes. Despite Al-Hassan Ibrahim's absence due to international duty with Nigeria, Akwa United saw off ABS-FC by 3-0. Nasarawa United took 4 points off Wiki Tourists as they cruised to a 2-0 win, and Gombe United and Tunjan Stars also won with 1-0 scorelines against Katsina United and Enyimba, respectively. That was the midday news, and just before we go, the media stories once again. Ogun teachers besieged TRCN office to beat May 31 registration deadline. Acting president called for sacrifice to make Nigeria great. Obasanjo warned against boiling angers and frustrations of Nigerian youths. 7 immigration officers summoned over misconduct at Lagos airport. On the foreign scene, we also reported that protesters blocked streets in Morocco demanding jobs for youths. And lastly, the German leader said EU must no longer rely on US and UK as allies for survival. For more stories and to listen to us live, please log on to our website www.rockcityfmradio.com/live. Thank you very much for listening. I am Chienye. Happy Democracy Day, and do have a lovely afternoon. Good afternoon.